Look at the incident itself. Most people pointed the finger at Vettel for the crash in turn 1, but he was exonerated after the stewards ruled that no one was predominantly at fault, and so there'll be no further action. And it seems very clear, though, to Max Verstappen's father, Jos, who blamed the incident based on this tweet that he put out after the race. However, a tweet from Ferrari's official team page caused a storm online after they laid the fault firmly at Verstappen's door. It was quite exciting, wasn't it? People saying, you know, he did it, no, he did it. Who did it?
Well, Max's fault. It was Max's fault.
Right.
Clearly. Because as soon as Sebastian knew that Max Verstappen was next door to him on the grid, the old collywobbles were going. Seb's got a real kind of weird thing about Max, hasn't he? And I'm sure he looked across at that Red Bull car and thought, whatever happens today, he's not going past me.
It's funny that you should say
and
that.
I think that helped trigger the whole incident.
So it wasn't Max's fault per se, but the response that
psychologically
Seb had to him. Very interesting you say that, because we saw in Mexico, you know, a four-time world champion to lose it on the radio like that just didn't seem in keeping with the person that we knew.
He's got a really... You see, I think in Formula One, there's one driver that Seb respects, and that's Lewis. But there's one that he actually fears, and that's Max. And I don't quite know why, but Max has got right under his skin. And I just have the feeling that Seb would be sitting there on the grid, it's wet, he knows how good Max is in the wet, and he's sitting there thinking, whatever I do, he's not coming past.
But ultimately, he's not fighting Max for a world championship, so why couldn't he keep his eyes on the prize and just focus on what needed to be done?
So I think actually, Natalie, that's a key thing, is that Sebastian Vettel, with a really important opportunity to win this race, took a very aggressive manoeuvre at the start, a manoeuvre that was unnecessary against a driver that he's not battling for in the world championship. And I kind of have to say that as the whole thing evolved and we saw that accident happen, I kind of wondered, why can Kimi Räikkönen and Sebastian Vettel not sit down on a Sunday afternoon in Singapore and say, how are you going to handle the start? And what happens if? And run through lots of scenarios. The fact is, Vettel chopped across, didn't see Räikkönen was on the other side of Verstappen. Equally, Räikkönen couldn't see that Vettel had given Verstappen nowhere to go. Max Verstappen was in the middle of a Ferrari sandwich. It's a Ferrari sandwich that the Ferrari team cooked all on their own. We don't cook a sandwich, but anyway, they made it all on their own. And the reality is they paid a very heavy price for that.
And they knew it was wet, so they knew there was risk involved. Yeah. And it was always going to be better for Seb to play the percentages, and if necessary, let Max go, let him have the lead or whatever it is. And if he settled, but if he settled for second, and the other fella's behind him, it's still a better thing, isn't it?
That four protagonists, these key drivers, were all knocked out of the race within seconds of it starting. Shouldn't somebody be held to account for it?
Well, Seb's paid the ultimate price, isn't he? He's now 28 points behind, and when he wakes up, you know, on Monday morning after the race, he'd be thinking, what a dozy beggar I am, you know, and that will be punishment enough, I think.
Okay.